Hello, it's Bruce here with a bit of a mea culpa. I guess it was 2 years ago I had the bright idea of doing something a little different. Normally my videos are one-offs on some particular modeling technique. But I had the idea of doing like a 5-part series on how I would scratch build this water tank that you're looking at. It's supposed to be a backwoods logging concern water tank in HO scale. And I did the first 2 parts, the first 2 videos, and I don't know what happened. I think I took a break from the build, and when I came back I didn't film the next couple steps, and here's the finished product. But as I looked at those first 2 parts, I realized there was lots of good information on scratch building and how I approached making the water tank in particular, which of everything that you're looking at here is the one somewhat atypical thing that I scratch built. The rest of it is the platform and supports and so forth are fairly straightforward. Draw a diagram on the paper and build each side of the trapezoidal legs there that you have, and so forth. So instead of not posting those first 2 that have some good information in it, I thought I would jump to the last phase, which is kind of the finished product, and just talk a little bit about some of the things. And then I'll post all 3 videos. Reminds me of advice I've given my sons over the years. Every once in a while one of them would have some great idea, and I would tell them great ideas, if not implemented, are pretty much worthless. So my great idea of a 5-part build series, sorry to say, falls into that category. But let's see if I can pull some of it out. If you look at those first 2 videos, it all dealt with how I did the substructure on the water tank itself. And I left off on the second one saying I'm going to glue all the strip wood to both the side walls of the tank and the top of the tank. And you can see that that is now done. I also built a little access hatch. The hinges are Grant Line castings. The little handle is scratch made out of wire. There's very few things on this build that were commercially made. Those hinges are one. The casting for the actual water spout is another. I believe that's made by Tichy. Everything else is just basically strip wood on hand. I've shown you how in a previous video how I make ladders, and there's a couple ladders here on the build, the one to go from the ground up to the platform, and on this side another one showing a ladder to get up to the top of the tank from the platform. The superstructure for holding the raising and lowering, I'll say, the water spout is fairly typical of water tank design back in the late early 1900s. And the only other thing I guess I would like to mention, I would have in the original, is putting the bands on around the water tank. And water tanks have more pressure from the water inside the tank at the bottom of the tank than at the top, and so typically those bands would get closer together. Many years ago, when I built my first scratch built water tank, actually it was a pickle vat, I was talking to my wife Bonnie about ways of putting the bands on. You think of using some sewing products of one type or another, and certainly one of them was using thicker thread, but dealing with how to keep it tight and parallel to the bottom of the tank and top of the tank as you put them on was of concern. And finally, Bonnie suggested using a product for sewing called elastic string, and that's what this is. And I color it rust color, comes black. I color it rust color by putting some rust color on a cloth and dragging the string through it. And then you can actually, tie those into loops and then make them a little undersized so that they have to stretch to go over the tank, and then start putting them on the tank, and they stay in place because they have stretch to them. And then I put a little dab of super glue every so often around to hold them in place. To cover the knots, I put them all in a line, and I put a sign on that says Slate Run. If I had thought ahead, I would have had them dead center in the back, but who plans ahead at my age? So that's going to be on the back side of the tank and not seen anyway. But put a coffee stirrer, which is the fill pipe, down through the bottom so that there's conceptually some way of filling the tank. And there you go. So if you recall, on the underside of this tank, it started with a core of a wooden napkin holder that I picked up at Michael's, followed by a band of cardstock, which was really a paper towel tube, and then showed you how to do that, and then glued the wood, strip wood, which was stained with alcohol and India ink. And that's the build. It's finished here. Sorry I didn't do some of the intermediate steps on the building of the platform itself and this superstructure. But as I said, as I looked at those first two, I said this is has worthwhile information, worth posting, and this just will serve as a third and final step to those initial two, so you don't wonder, did Bruce ever finish that project? What did it look like? Well, there it is. Hey, that's it for now.